You stole my son's chocolate bar. Give my son his chocolate bar back, or I'll get you in juvenile, you cold attender.
r/EntitledParents. What is up, guys? Mr. Reddit here, back with another episode of Entitled Parents Stories. r/EntitledParents is one of my favorite subreddits, and I really enjoyed making this. Now kick back, relax, and enjoy the show. Our first story we'll be reading today, entitled Dad Almost Comes to Blows with an Armed Security Officer. This story comes from user Cameron James 222. After that, Sing Angel of Money, I mean music, from user Lapine Loyal. And then we'll be finishing up with entitled Mom Calls My Religion a Cult, from user Current Gap 0. Thank you to all of our amazing authors for letting us read your stories. And if you'd like your stories to be read on the channel, please drop me the link in the comments and I'll come check them out. And welcome to our newest members of the Re-Army, Greg, Jason, and Drano Man. And if you're new, join the Re-Army by subscribing for new stories from Reddit every single day. Entitled Dad Almost Comes to Blows with an Armed Security Officer. This is a long one, so buckle up. This happened back in 2017 when I was working as a security officer at a high-end golf course. We'll call it Fancy Golf Course. It was only a summer gig, but it paid well, and it gave me something to do for the summer while school was out. I had a really nice uniform, got handcuffs, and they even paid half of the price for my firearm. They were very good to me, up until I was laid off because of major budget cuts. Mostly my job entailed dealing with drunk golfers, breaking up fights, keeping kids that thought they could fish in our water hazards off the course, the usual. Now, something that must be said about this course. It was extremely high-end, as you would expect if they could afford to hire fully armed and certified security guards. Even though it was so high-end, it mostly catered to younger children. We had several kids' tournaments on the course every month, and of course, when you get a lot of rich kids in one place, you're bound to have a few entitled parents showing up. I was patrolling the course when I got a radio call from the pro shop manager telling me that she needs me back at the clubhouse immediately. So I made my way back as quick as I could. I was in the middle of the course, so it took a good 10 minutes for me to respond to the clubhouse. When I finally arrived, I walk in to see a tall, lanky gentleman yelling at the manager. We'll call him ED for Entitled Dad. Seeing me, he thinks I'm a police officer, since my uniform looks very similar to a police officer's from a distance. He comes over to me and tells me that he wants to press charges for harassment against the golf course, and that they are not allowing him to rent a cart to go out with his son in this tournament. So I said, I actually work for the golf course. I'm a security officer. I show him my credentials. He then proceeded to tell me that I shouldn't be carrying a gun, and that I could be arrested for such conduct, which I know is total BS. So I pull out my notepad and begin to take notes on what he's telling me. After I get his side of the story, I go over to my pro shop manager and get her side of the story. Here's the thing about this particular course. We tried to handle things internally and not get the police involved unless it was absolutely necessary. Why did they do this? Because it did not want bad publicity. The course was sinking financially. It actually closed a year after I was laid off. Let's continue. Here's what went down. Pro shop manager is PM, and Entitled Dad is ED, and me is, well, me. Entitled Dad walks into the pro shop and demands a card key so he can go out and watch his son play in the tournament. Manager says, sure, let me see your driver's license and credit card. We charged a $15 rental fee. He gives her his credit card, not his driver's license, which is required by golf course safety policy. She tells him so and requests again to see his license. He also refuses the second request, and manager notices that the name on the credit card is a female, but the last name looked familiar to her. She glanced down at the blacklist and saw a name that matched the last name on the credit card. She asked him if he was this person. He denied it and said it was his brother. We have a very interesting way of blacklisting people. If we need to blacklist someone, we tell them that they have won a prize, but they have to give us their ID in order to receive the prize. We then take a photo scan of their ID, give them a small bag of free golf balls, and tell them that they have been blacklisted from the course for an X amount of time. Not really lying, but not the most ethical way of doing it, but it works. Anyway, she says no. I'm looking at a photo scan of your driver's license and you match perfectly with the man on the driver's license. I'm going to have to ask you to leave. Entitled Dad completely loses it and begins screaming at her, calling her all kinds of names that I will not repeat. Slurs. She's Hawaiian but looks Asian. You name it. He called her every name in the book. And believe me, working at golf courses almost my entire life, I've heard every cuss word you can imagine. She then says, "Sir, if you don't leave, I will be forced to call security." He says,
"Do that! I'm not leaving."
So she picked up the radio and called me immediately. Manager told me that she was in fear for her life and called a member of the kitchen staff to come out and stand beside her. Now, this member of the kitchen staff should have had my job. He was 3 times my size and had the biggest muscles on a man I've ever seen. He placed himself between Entitled Dad and the manager, silently daring him to do something stupid. I should also note that this kitchen staff member was a former prize fighter, so yeah, not someone you'd want to mess with. And right before I showed up, Entitled Dad threatened to have them all fired and said some very horrible things to the kitchen staff member and the manager. When I walked in, like I said, he assumed that I was the police and tried to twist the story in his favor. When I went up to him and asked for his driver's license, he assumed that I was going to help him, so he gave it to me. I asked him to hold on a sec, and I walked over to the blacklist board and matched his ID up with the ID on the board. It was him. Positive ID. There was a little note by his name, which said that if he was found on the course, he was to be arrested immediately for trespassing. I didn't want to do that, so I figured I would just get him to leave. I walked back over to Entitled Dad and handed him back his ID. I said, "Sir, unfortunately, your name is indeed on the blacklist. Your ID matches. I'm afraid I'm going to have to ask you to leave." He screamed back,
"What? My son and my wife are out there on the golf course, and I want to join them to watch my son play in the tournament."
I said, "I'm very sorry, sir, but I can't let you do that. You have been trespassing 3 times, and if I let you on the course, I could lose my job." He said,
"Can you just take me out there and drop me off? And then I won't have to take one of your cards."
I said, "Sir, I can't do that. I'm going to have to ask you to leave." He said,
"I'm not going anywhere."
"Oh, yes, you are." I reach for my radio and call upstairs to the other security officer on duty and tell him that we may have a situation and be prepared to call the police. Entitled Dad doesn't like that and tries to grab my radio mic, all the while screaming that he's going to have me, the other security guard, the manager, and the kitchen staff member fired. He then points to my gun and says he's going to have me arrested for having it. I said, "Oh, it's registered to me. Here, would you like to see my registration?" Which I keep a copy on me at all times for instances such as this. I'm certified through my state to carry a duty weapon. Perfectly legal. No laws were broken. He demands to see my manager. Unbeknownst to him at the time, even though I look very young, I was the highest ranking and most senior security officer there that day. And I tell him so, pointing to my bronze badge. Any other security officer would have had a silver badge. I also pointed to the lieutenant ranks on my collar. He doesn't like that and takes me as being smart. He grabs me by the collar and begins to scream in my face. Now I've had enough. I took several defense courses while I went to the academy. One of the things they taught us to do was to use pepper spray, which we had to actually be exposed to in order to carry. Well, guess what? I pulled out my hell in a can, OC spray. Anybody who has ever gotten hit with this stuff will know exactly what I'm talking about. From my utility belt, and put it right in his face and told him to back the heck off right now. He said,
"Oh, that's just an inert training version. You wouldn't be allowed to carry the real stuff."
I said, "Grab me one more time and you'll find out." A small crowd is now beginning to gather as we were both getting quite loud. He seemed to ponder that and turned away. I thought it was over. Oh, how wrong I was. He turned around with lightning speed and grabbed my collar again with one hand and made a fist with the other. This time, I sprayed him in the face with pepper spray. He immediately hit the floor, screaming and crying like a child, rubbing his eyes and screaming at the top of his lungs. I called on the radio and told my colleague what had just happened and to call an ambulance and the police. He did so and came down himself to see what he could do to help. We grabbed the jug of water and just poured it all over his face, which is the best way to relieve the burning that OC spray causes. All the while, he's yelling and screaming about how he's going to end us and ruin our lives in court. We immediately put him in cuffs and told everybody in the cafe and pro shop to please wait outside until this scene was over. Now, this is the best part, for me anyway. Just weeks earlier, our course made an investment. It was an investment that probably saved all of our butts. What was this investment? Body cams. All security officers were required to wear body cams whenever they were on duty. We all thought it was stupid, until this happened. The police arrived, and they were about to arrest me when they saw what I had done and listened to Entitled Dad's story, until I showed them the body cam footage. Then they proceeded to take him to the hospital to be treated, and as I remember it, they ended up charging him with 2 counts of aggravated assault, 4 counts of trespassing, and 3 counts of harassment. When I got to meet the mom and the kid, they were very sweet, but were very upset about what had happened. Not at me, but just upset in general. I felt very bad for them, especially his son, who was very sweet and well-mannered. I am currently not in security anymore. I am now an independent video production contractor, but I'm thinking of getting back into security for a little extra money.
How dare you treat my husband like that? He only wanted to watch the tournament.
Karen, shut up. Next up, we've got Sing, Angel of Money. I mean music. Sit, dear Redditors, and let me tell you the story of my mother. She may not be the most monstrous of mothers, but she's still a great big pile of entitled.
I am your mother. I'm entitled to your existence.
Anyways, my mother had a dream. She used to sing, but one tragic, fateful day, she had a throat ache and destroyed her voice after taking too many lozenges. Or so she said. The moment she heard me sing, seeing how much I enjoyed it, there were stars in her eyes. Or maybe dollar signs. I can't really be sure. I was like 7. All of a sudden, she cared about me and my future. I guess if she couldn't be a famous singer, she would force me to do it. I was told that my dream was to be a singer. I was told and forced to put everything I had into it. Strenuous individual classical training, competitions, constant practice. Her favorite was to turn our, at the time, state-of-the-art sound system all the way up and force me to sing over it. She was abusive and uncaring towards me, unless it was 1, in front of other people to make her seem like a good person, or 2, related to singing. I want to say that's the worst. That's the entitlement. My mom thought that because she had birthed me, she had the right to insist that I follow her dream. But it's not. I hate to honk my own horn, but I am a good singer. I always placed in the top 3, but one year I got first. I nearly cried. Not only was I going home with $100, a lot for a 10-year-old, and a trophy, but also my mom wasn't going to spend the several-hour car trip back home screaming at me for not having won. I was so very happy. I think I would have rathered the screaming, though, as the 10-year-old me excitedly thought of what kinds of nice things she could get herself after working so hard. My mother said,
Lapine? Hey, I know you just got it, but I need your money for diapers and gas to get home. I'll pay you back.
My heart sunk. I knew that if I argued, I would be hit for talking back. And my little brother meant, and always will mean the world to me, so I reluctantly gave her the money. Diapers for my brother were important. They were worth it. But even that was a lie. My mother is a liar. And she is selfish, like most entitled mothers. Did she ever pay me back? No. But even worse, did she go and buy diapers and food for us like she had said she needed? Double nope. She went and got her nails done with my money, and when I confronted her about it, she said that she couldn't handle having short nails and that she deserved nice things. Jerk, your children are literally starving. But that's a story for another time and probably another sub. And our final story of the day, entitled Mom Calls My Religion a Cult. Backstory. I am a Buddhist or monk, and many people call my religion a cult, but just do a little research and you can tell we are not a cult. There was an event with the religion where 50,000 people gathered and everyone attended and got a shirt that had a lion and something about Buddhists. I'll try to add a picture. We've got the entitled mom, entitled child, my dad, and the cashier. Story. I had gone to a Publix. I live in Florida. And I had gotten some candy, and entitled child came up to me, I think he was 5, and started wailing to get my candy. And I wasn't dumb, and my dad had always told me to not give free stuff to someone because they will expect to get more of it. So I told him no, like a regular person. 30 minutes later, I got to check out while my dad is getting something he forgot, and this is what happened. Entitled child taps on entitled mom's shoulder and whispers something. Entitled mom taps my shoulder.
You stole my son's chocolate bar. Please give it back.
No, I didn't do that. Entitled mom raises her voice.
You liar. Give it back, freak.
Excuse me? Entitled mom raises her voice even higher. Notices my shirt.
Give my son his chocolate bar back, or I'll get you in juvenile, you cult attender.
Dad comes back with an item and puts it in the basket. Entitled mom turns to my dad.
And you freaking skinhead.
My dad is bald. What?
How dare you rot me? You have raised a cult attender and future skinhead. I'm calling the cops for neglect.
The cashier.
Ma'am, I thought you would stop by now, but if you don't stop, I'm gonna need to call security.
Why don't you call security on that slime ball?
Points at me. My dad realizes what's happening. Look, my son didn't steal your candy. Entitled mom realizes she's outnumbered.
Pfft, fine.
Finishes order and adds chocolate and mumbles under her breath. I wish I could say she got in jail or banned from the store, but no, she didn't. And I met her again, but in a park, but it wasn't so eventful, so I probably won't post it.
OP sounds like a daddy's boy and a liar. He knows he stole my son's chocolate bar.
Hey Karen, did you see the re-army has now reached 20,000?
Oh, 20,000 is nothing, and pales in comparison to the number of entitled parents. Those stupid re's in the comments don't mean anything.
Well, then why do they make you so mad?
They don't make me mad.
Yes, they do.
No, they don't.
Yes, they do. See? Let's stick it to Karen by making sure channel notifications are turned on. And congratulations to our newest regenerals, Some Guy, Iris, The Under Nerd, and DeAndre Truesdale. That's all for now, but don't be blue. I'll be back soon with more stories for you. Remember to listen to Mr. Reddit every night so your dreams will be wonderful like you are and bright.